So, the idea with GroupMark is that it's a desktop alternative to web-based solutions like Gradescope for making it easier for teachers to hand mark, hand done, done on paper tests and exams from students. Really important. No student data is ever going to leave your device. You can optionally use AI to help you figure out where each question is on the page and suggest possible answers and those kinds of things. But it's going to do that using the blank version of your test paper. It's never going to see any student data. It's a fundamental idea of our software. So the first thing we've got to do is make a class. So this is a maths class on the red line. It's a maths class. You don't have to specify a subject, but you can specify an academic year. You need to upload a list of students if you want to not have to add them all individually. This probably is exported just straight from your LMS. That's how I would do it. This one happens to be a single column, so all the students' names are just in one column. But of course you could have one where there was a first name and a last name column, and you could specify then which column was in each one. But this is just a single name column. That's kind of fine. Then what we've got to do is add a task. So I'm going to do two tasks. I'm going to do a multiple choice task first, and then I'm going to do a more traditional like short answer test or exam. So the multiple choice question, this is a maths multiple choice quiz. I'm going to use a 20 question example, but you can use GroupMark to generate templates, bubble sheets for any number of questions. You can go quite high. I think you can fit 50 on a page kind of thing. And you can have more than 4 options or fewer than 4 options per question as well. And likewise, your answers might start not at the same, might not start at letter A. No, that's common for our biology tests for some reason. Anyway, so the idea is we need to tell it which answers are correct. So I'm just going to pick some correct answers. Apologies for the weird stuttering. I'll fix that soon. Anyway, these are the correct answers for my multiple choice question. You can specify how many marks they're each worth. You can specify, maybe this question's got 2 correct answers and you need to get them both to get any marks, or maybe you get partial marks. Like, that's all optional over here, but I'm just going to go with a pretty simple version for now. Again, you can download a PDF, so this is what the PDF will look like. Students put their name on it, they color in the bubbles. When you've got the classes work, you chuck them into the document feeder of a photocopier, you scan it to a PDF. One giant PDF is great. You upload them to GroupMark. And what this is doing is this is using local optical character recognition to try and match up names with what the students have written down. Character recognition of handwriting isn't good. That was weird. Yeah, Windows doesn't do this super well, so I'm going to have to do it fairly manually, but that's okay. This is kind of quick too. So you can type the start of the name, or you can find the whole name in the list. It's however you want to do it. Don't know why it's doing that, but it's not actually stopping me from getting this done. Well, yeah. Lucy, Lara, it's both Ed, Tiffany, and Oh, cool. So, what it's done is it has auto-marked some questions that it's confident in. You can see it's compared the students' coloured bubbles with the expected answers. The correct answers are in green. Blue here is what the student selected. So what we're looking for is that this grid says what that says, right? It says has the same ones filled in. But there are some that it was less sure about. So like this student, whoever they were, Edmund, didn't colour in the bubbles. So he just put lines through them, and it still read most of them correctly. The ones that it didn't read correctly, we can just tell it what he selected. So he selected those ones. For question 8, he said B. That's kind of fine. We can do this all manually. 12 was B as well. 14 was A. That's kind of okay. The other thing we could do is we could just change the threshold for what counts as being filled in. So for some reason it hasn't been able to read question 15 or 19 here. But if we lower the threshold a bit, so now it's looking for less well filled in bubbles. Now we can see that it reads that correctly. And we can do that per quiz. So we can do that, per student. Or we can do it for every student by clicking apply. It'll apply the same logic to every student. You can see that that broke it. I lowered the sensitivity too far, and it meant that it couldn't mark some automatically. But you can just fiddle with that. You can pick what works best for you. It depends obviously on how students have marked it and what your scanner is like. This student didn't fill in anything for question 5, and it marks that as unusual, so you have to do some manual review on that. That's kind of okay. And this student double marked question 18. And you can see what have they actually done? Oh, they've crossed out B and they've tried to just mark C. So I'll be generous and give that to them. We can double check any of the marks and correct them. If you don't like what's happened to this student, you can change their marking. That's easy enough to do. But you can also just look at your results. So per question, this is how the class went. So again, it's highlighting in orange where the class is below 50% on average. You can look per student and see that horrible bell curve for this multiple choice question sheet. Per student, you can see what they answered for each question as well, whether they got it correct rather. That's kind of okay. And it will also do item analysis for you, so which questions were hard, as in the average score was low, which questions were good discriminators, so which questions were answered well by students who did well and poorly by students who did poorly. If there's a question that's the reverse, if there's a question that students with low scores get correct, but students with high scores get incorrect, that maybe indicates that there's something unusual with that question. It was marked weirdly, or it was a particularly unusual question or whatever. And so it'll sort of highlight those for you as well. The weakest students chose this one correctly, those kinds of things. So that's multiple choice. Hopefully that makes sense. You can export the results to a CSV, or you can get a PDF of it, which you might project up onto the board kind of thing. When I do quizzes or tests, I usually would show students a page like this and then be like, oh, well, okay, let's talk about question 7 since most students didn't get it correct. Those kinds of discussions. That's why I like this kind of presentation. It'll also output annotated PDFs of how each student's marks were calculated. For multiple choice questions, that's not super interesting, but for traditional short answer papers, can be really good. And if you've input student email addresses and have given GroupMark some email credentials, so you've used a single-use password for your school email address kind of thing, given it to GroupMark, that will email students if you want it to. It can email students what their grades were. That PDF summary sheet, those kinds of things, so that they can see how they went. Obviously, they only ever see their own results that way. Or you can sort the questions by hardest versus paper order too, so you can see what's people about at question 20. That's kind of fun. So that's multiple choice questions, multiple choice quizzes. The other kind of quiz that we can do is like a short answer paper, a more traditional test. So here's one that I've used. So you have to upload a blank copy. Again, I say upload. We're really just telling it where it is on your hard drive. Here's what the blank copy looks like. Our first job is you've got to tell it where each question is. So again, here's the PDF. The first bit is highlight a name region, and then, so then the student's name goes there. And then the questions, this is one answer region, another. Right? And this is pretty quick. Doesn't actually take very long to do. And then you can rearrange them. So for example, this question here, question 2 isn't actually question 2. This second region was question 1b. So by dropping them on top of each other like that, we've built this this tree-like structure over here, so we can have sub-questions. Question 2 is also got an A and B part. Question 3 is a single parter. And for each question, you can specify how many marks they're worth. So question 1A is out of 2, question 1B is out of 2. Right. And you can see the totals change. Each one can also get a name, so you can specify, convert kilometers an hour, kilometers a second to meters a second. Right? So when you're marking it, you know what they are being asked to do. That's fine. You can do that manually. That's how you would do it on Gradescope. It's pretty easy to do. Intentionally, I've tried to streamline that process as much as I can. These regions are editable afterwards. You can change their size, right? Why it's going blue like that. That's cool. Anyway, that's fine. The other thing you can do, if you want to take the shortcut, is you can get AI to do it. So at the moment, there's I'm using an API from Anthropic, so you can upload your blank test sheet to their servers, Anthropic servers. Claude will take a look at it and figure out where the questions are, how many questions you've got on the paper, what each question's worth, where they are, those kinds of things, where the name region is, that stuff. At the moment, I'm just paying for this out of pocket. It's a few cents per test, so it's not a huge cost to me. That's kind of fine. If that ever ends up not being viable, I'll let people know through an update, and eventually we'll move to you can put in your own API key, and I'll put out a video about how to do that. It'll be pretty easy, and then you can have your own AI do it. Again, it's actually pretty affordable to do. It's not an expensive thing. So Claude's come back and it's suggested where each question is on the paper. It's suggested how many marks they're worth and what a name could be for each of them. And it's done it for both pages. So I'm going to accept those regions. Not that they're perfect, but they're pretty good. And if I want to, I can tweak them. So like this one, this one here, I want to move it up a bit and shrink it sideways. This one likewise. Right. It actually doesn't matter. They don't need to be perfect. They've got a 10% buffer around them anyway, so if a student's like written outside of the box, it's not that you're not going to see it. You can always see the whole paper anyway. This is just about streamlining the process from an AI perspective, and you'll see why that matters. But I don't mind when I'm doing this, spending a little while tidying these up. Spend a couple of minutes. It's really quite quick. The advantage of doing this the idea is you do this once, and then if you reuse this paper, you can reuse this file. You don't have to do this every new year. Likewise, if you teach with someone else, you can export your GroupMark work, and it won't send any student work, but you could export your work, so the blank template and where the regions are and stuff, and then they can import that on their version of GroupMark, so that you've just halved the work. If one person does it, the other person doesn't have to. That's the kind of thing that Gradescope have put behind a paywall. So the whole idea of this is that I think that we shouldn't have to pay for that kind of basic feature. Okay, so just like we did for the multiple choice, what we're going to do is get the kids to do the work on paper like they've always done, scan it into a photocopier, then upload the scans. These could be in multiple separate files. You could have like smaller batches if your photocopier can't handle the whole class at once or whatever. But in this case, the whole class fit into the photocopier. So what it's done is it's compared the template with the uploaded PDF. It's realized the template has 2 pages, their landscape. The things that I've uploaded have like an even number of landscape pages, so it's just split them every 2 pages and gone, that's kid 1, that's kid 2, that's kid 3. If it got it wrong, we can shuffle around where the edges are between submissions, so we can merge 2 submissions together, that kind of thing. If you had a paper that was scanned sideways, you can rotate it. Easy enough. If a student had left their formula sheet in, and so you had to, you can easily delete a page that you've scanned accidentally. You can add a gap. You can easily split submissions if you want to. Fundamentally, the whole idea is this is supposed to be fairly quick. So, cool. I've got 20 submissions. Like we did last time, I have to line up names with students. This time it's going to be a bit easier because, as you can see, I cheated. This isn't real student work. This is all actually typed, and so the character recognition got it correct. But that's kind of fine. That's Ged and that's Vin. Cool. So, marking traditional, like short answer work's a little bit more in detail than multiple choice. I'm gonna show you a couple of questions here. Probably the first thing you would do is just start with question 1A. We're marking question by question rather than student by student. So here's the first student's first question. On the right-hand pane here, we've got the criteria, as well as the student's overall score. You can also add an optional question for the particular student that you're looking at. So we could add criteria manually. We could say, the correct answer is 7,900 meters a second, and by default that's worth 1 mark. Maybe this is a 2-mark question, so it's worth 2 marks in this case. It's kind of fun. So you can click the button to assign that to that student. Alternately, you can use LaTeX to do nice maths formatting if you want to, nice superscripts or subscripts or whatever. So maybe this is NMS to the -1. Right. Alternately, maybe doing that all manually is too hard. If you were using Gradescope, you would have to do it manually like that. For each question, can take a fair amount of time. Because we fed the blank copy of this test to Claude, Claude came back and suggested what possible answers were for each question. It suggested like possible marking schemes for each question. So it knew this was a 2-mark question, so it suggested that this question, this is a possible answer to this question. This is still editable. If you don't like exactly how it's worded, you can rephrase it, you can delete it, you can do what you want. But that's going to show up down here, this section down the bottom is these AI-suggested marking schemes. So to actually do the marking, once you've got like a rubric with some criteria set up, you can click the little check boxes here with the blank, or whether they've done question like answer 2 or whether they've done answer 3, whatever. Or you can just use keyboard shortcuts. So the keyboard shortcuts are 1 and 2 and 3, down to 9, if you've got 9 criteria. So this student gets that criterion. And then you can click Next Student, but the fast way to do it is to press Z. Z will take you to the next unmarked paper. So it ends up being pretty fast to just mark these things. And the real advantage of doing it this way, rather than marking on paper, is that the student gets the feedback of what they needed to do to get the full marks. We finished marking question 1A, and it took us to question 1B. The flow just continues on, it just takes you to the next question. This question also, of course, needs a criterion that's correct. So here's the AI suggestion, right? That seems okay. Sometimes the AI gets stuff wrong. I've had some numerical stuff that it's messed up. That's kind of okay too. It's easy enough to fix. It's not a big problem to modify that if it messes things up. This is all kind of fine. Again, this is more or less how Gradescope does it. If you've used Gradescope before, this should feel familiar. The other thing that Gradescope does, and that GroupMark has been inspired by, Gradescope lets you group like answers. So it lets you put student answers that are similar together so that you don't have to mark them each individually. GroupMark does that too, but GroupMark isn't paywalled. Again, the whole idea is that it speeds things up for us. So if we take a question that, I don't know, has a nice numerical answer. Maybe this one. Let's do D. The total time of flight. Cool. So you can see we're just expecting like a simple number of seconds as our answer. Rather than marking them individually, we can click Group View. We can see every student's answer to this question. And we can see that a bunch of students have answered it in a similar way. So we can click Suggest Groups. And again, using local optical character recognition, it will group like answers, or it will try to. Now, it's kind of messed up. You can see it's done some things wrong. One thing is that it's reading the word bullet because my question region's a little bit too large. So if I go back to define question regions, make sure I'm in move and resize, I'm going to shrink my question region a little bit, and then go back to marking them. Now, when I suggest groups, it still didn't do right. It's okay. It works sometimes. It hasn't worked super great this time, but if you don't like how it's done it automatically, it's easy enough to do this for yourself. So we are going to, sorry, I had to dismiss the automatic suggestions. We are going to do this manually. So those two students said 400. Those two said 400 too. These two both said 63.5. These folks all said 0. Left it blank. Another 2 blank. That person said 400 as well. Blank and blank. Blank and blank. So what I'm doing here, just chucking students together who've answered things in the same way. Happy to take suggestions for how to speed this up, but you can imagine if you had lots of students, if this was a question, a test that you'd used across multiple classes, this could save a lot of time. So fundamentally, we've got kind of 3 answers here. Some students said 400, some students said 65.3, and some students said nothing, they left it blank. So rather than marking these all individually, the neat trick that we can use is these 3 sets of answers, we can just mark them as groups. So these 5 students all said 400. Right, which that's what the marking scheme says, so they all get that. That's cool. These students all said 65.3. They get no marks. These students all said nothing. They get no marks. Because we marked the previous question in groups, it's going to suggest that we mark the next question in groups as well. And again, we can get it to try and group them by itself. Sometimes it does okay, sometimes it does less okay. But yeah, like those people said 320. This person said 320 as well. Anyway, we can accept those suggestions and then we can change it around. So Lyra said 320. Sam Vimes said 320. This person said 0. Right, so we can, all these people said 320. This person said 0. This person said 0. This person said 0. Right, this person said 0. These people all left it blank. So again, the idea of marking them in groups is just all these people who said the same thing, just mark them as one person. Speed up the process. Once you've marked things, a question like this, man, this video is long, sorry. The results page, again, you can see which questions were done well and least badly. That's kind of fine. You can see the results by tag, so you can see how people are going at unit conversion or the speed questions or whatever. These tags were generated by the AI as well. The idea is that they persist across tasks so that over your semester of work or year of work or whatever, you could see how a student's skill in one particular task type or question type progressed. You can define custom tags, which the AI will use as well. So you could specify something from your curriculum document, something about I don't know, experimental design, say. Use the exact phrasing from your curriculum document, and the AI will look for that when they're assigning tags to questions as you go. Obviously, the tagging is optional. You don't have to do any of this, but it's a nice extra layer. And like we said, when the whole thing's marked, you can see which questions were done well by students across the class, those kinds of things. The last thing I wanted to briefly share is across the whole class, of course, now that we've got multiple tasks on the way, we can look at an overall mark scheme, mark book for the class. So we can sort that by their overall score or, their score for the multiple choice quiz or whatever. And we can even sort, even though they only put in their names are all in one column, we can sort by first or last name, because of course we can. That's a reasonable guess, though. Of course, some students, if you don't have a surname for them, you're just going to sort by the name you've got. Students with hyphenated names or whatever, it's going to sort by the first of them. It's going to do it fairly simplistically, but still, it's nice to have that option. So hopefully that's helpful. Sorry that this video is half an hour long.